The majority of the Swedish coastline is unexplored, uninhabited. A lot of the time you're walking through thick forests without trails. You're walking along very slippery, sometimes icy, coastal terrain. You're paddling over to islands, walking over them, paddling back. A lot of my time is spent driving around our country. One drives great distances to reach certain parts of our coast. In a proper ocean, like the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian Ocean, North Sea, you have so much more opportunity. You get to see how a wave reacts almost every day. In the Baltic, you might surf a wave 10 times in 5 years. To score a single reef on its best day ever, that can require so many years here. In Sweden, that can take you a whole lifetime. Our family has always traveled, and I remember at one point my father, he gave us the option. He was like, okay, well, we can either go to a place in Spain and snorkel, or go to Portugal and stay with some of his friends and try surfing. We obviously, my brother and I chose Portugal. And so we went there, and I was probably like 7 or 8. I just remember feeling how free this sport was. It was like all the other sports, but without rules and in an incredible environment. And then I remember being at home in Sweden and not having a board or anything. So what I did is I went and kind of borrowed like a windsurfing board that I saw lying in someone's property. I have to like figure out how to stay warm with the wetsuits that didn't exist then. So, you kind of double up on your wetsuits and you put maybe like some woolen gloves under dishing gloves and you duct tape that and you look like a liability. It was just like already an adventure, straight away an adventure. And from day one, demanded more of me than it did anywhere else, because I was like, okay, the sea was like to play with me, you have to figure it out. Paddled around on that thing on my local beach in Åhus. I was like alone in the water, there was no one around. There were like mini waves. Surfing really caught me because of the freedom and the fact that it was the most athletic activity I'd ever done. But in this incredible environment, it wasn't like tennis where there was a court with lines. I decided that this is what I wanted to do in my life. And I remember this one summer's day, we'd been sitting inside all day, and I remember just hearing the sea really loudly. And I remember going, wow, that's a really deep rumble. I have to go have a look. Usually it's very stormy when you surf at home, but this day it was like these glassy waves breaking at my beach that I hadn't really experienced like that before, and I just had a full freak out. That really triggered something. That just set off a thought process in my head that started the dream.
På söndag inleds ett Europamästerskap i Frankrike där en svensk deltagares framgångar beror på hur lite han har vistats i Sverige.
Sveriges första professionella vågsurfare har sopat hem SM som 18-åring och blir 4 i junior-EM.
When I was 16, I moved to Portugal. I'd probably surfed 10 weeks total. I obviously realized that when I was surfing with all these other guys that what I needed to do was to just surf so much more than them. I'd be at the beach from 10 in the morning until 7 at night. I was competing a lot, traveling the world, constantly on the road. That was the most competitive time of my life. I mean, I did 60 QS competitions at least, you know.
The waves have been really good. Peru is an interesting place.
Oh, here we go, Freddie Meadows. What is it called, Freddie?
Because of all the traveling, I was maybe home 4 months a year or something like that. So yeah, I was doing the exploration I could during that time, but more in kind of my areas and just learning to kind of turn every stone around there. Maybe we have better waves than we think in this little sea, you know? When I was 26, after competing and traveling the world, this dream just started. It was just too much to handle. I was just longing to go back. I know we have these waves. So I started just kind of creating a list by looking at the whole country. And I was like starting to dream myself into all these places and visualize them and see the waves without them being there and all these things like, wow, that could look like this and this could look like that. I was supposed to actually go to the World Championships at the time. I just felt it within me that the right thing to do was to go home. The sacrifice of not surfing for the real essence of why I fell in love with surfing was starting to catch up on me a little bit. Within like a week of being at home, I saw this big low pressure coming over Scandinavia, you know. I went home with the mission that now I'm starting this dream. I saw the low pressure come and I just followed it to kind of a first area where I've always believed in. I spent kind of 4 days on different islands, going through just really thick forests, and the swell looked like something really special was going to happen. And I remember I related that to that one day when I was younger, where we had just really clean surf, and it just felt like this was going to be that day. And we saw these massive swell lines coming in. There was no break in the wave. It was just a beautiful death slab just landing on dry rock. And so we walked, 2 or 3 more bays and didn't receive anything special. And we had like one last headland to go over, and we were just like, okay, this will be the last one, and then we'll turn back empty-handed. And we just literally came up onto the brow of the hill and looked over. And I just remember looking into this just everything I'd drawn in my childhood books, everything I'd dreamt was that what could have been in our little sea that I love so much was there. I felt like that I wouldn't ever be scared at home in the Baltic. And then this session I paddled out, and there were ways that terrified me. But at the same time, it was so beautiful that it was hard to be terrified. It was interesting. this gave me a whole new purpose. It was like a whole new depth to what I could now achieve and do in my life, and made me feel like I was on the right surfing path and not disrespecting everything surfing had taught me in my life.
Men nu ska det handla om att surfa. För Freddie Meadows är Sveriges enda surfproffs, har surfat på världens alla hav. Men det har inte alltid varit så, Jesper.
Nej, Jenny, för 10 år sedan ungefär så höll han på att förlora sin passion när han drabbades av en sjukdom som invalidiserade honom faktiskt.
When I was 19, I got really sick. I experienced an autoimmune disease called reactive arthritis, and was carried to the bathroom by my father for 4 months. I had the arthritis numbers of a 140-year-old. So I had huge amounts of inflammation all over my body. I couldn't cut my own food. I couldn't bend my knees. I definitely couldn't surf. Some of the doctors were like, this is the worst I've ever seen. The doctors were kind of telling me to change my career and to rethink my life. And I found that so rude. It's so wrong that you can tell someone what they're capable of doing and not. Instead of taking the chemotherapy or the steroids that suppress my immune system, I changed my diet and took other herbs to improve my immune system. I was really sad, but I was kind of trying to accept it, and I got to this point where I was like, I have to do something to get better. I started to meditate and feel every cell in my body, and to send love to the areas of my body that were suffering the most. I have to take a step in some way. I can't just sit here and be stagnant in my disease or my situation. I remember looking through the trees and seeing glassy swell breaking on the beach. And I couldn't watch it anymore. It was too heavy to watch. And I just decided that I have to paddle out. I took my crutches. I threw the crutches on the sand. Jumped on one leg out. I remember just like paddling over the first set, feeling this euphoric feeling. And I could surf better than I could walk. And I remember at that moment, everything changed on another level. It like, I became who I kind of needed to be, you know? Sorry, man. Everything changed after that. People who have really inspired me have been my elders who have shown me the way and picked me up and took me surfing when I was a kid, or just the crew of the elders who found all the ways we surf. I have all of their knowledge that's been passed down, and I'm like, wow, like, what heroes. It's just this flourishing scene with lots of people surfing and enjoying our sea both in summer and winter, and it just shows like how positive and beautiful surfing is, and how these people are affected to become so dedicated to like go out in midwinter and surf here. It's a painful experience, you know. Fucking freezes. It'd be hard to get colder water.
When he said he was going to stop competing and start looking for waves in Sweden, I was dubious. But I think it was a really good decision because he's found some amazing waves and he's pushed Swedish surfing, I think, by doing that rather than being a Swede on the tour.
Amongst all these glorious times and moments, the work that goes behind it is not generally the kind of work a lot of people want to join you on. A lot of the time has been spent alone, which started off as being quite a dreamy thought, you know? It was this one island I've actually been visiting for about 2 years now, but have dreamt of it for 5 times that. It, for me, is just it's got such a magical lure about it. It's a place I've dreamt that has Sweden's greatest waves. You imagine your retirement, you know, and you're like, that's how I imagine with that place, like, oh, it's gonna have, you know, this place is gonna have a wave, and that place is gonna have a wave, and it's just magical. And I had 10 years of that, of just dreaming myself around this whole area. And I definitely been out there at times where I've thought there's gonna be waves and there aren't, which starts awakening a few worries within yourself. You know, I'm like, I've got enough doubts on my plate, like, here we go, there's another doubt, you know, and I'd had to do so much time. Last autumn I did 100 kilometers of this coast and didn't have, you know, I saw some hints of incredible stuff happening, but nothing really materialized. It was a really hard time because a lot of time and not seeing any of these places that I was so sure of. I was so sure of them, and there's still nothing really happening. And even this year, going back on swells that you think are going to happen, and to my horror, nothing was working. I just felt so confused. The amount of self-doubt is just enormous. There's so much self-doubt. And then questioning of why you decide to be so far away from everyone that means so much to you. Because I put so many eggs in that basket, like, wow, this is the spot, right? And tried to manifest it so many times, but I was like, maybe this place isn't what I bagged it up to be, you know? And then this swell came. Our crossing was brutal. We checked all the doable options. The sea was getting so rough. It was getting rougher and rougher and rougher and rougher to the point where 3 waves in a row broke over the bow of the boat. We had to turn around. We couldn't continue. It was just not a responsible decision to make. I was looking at the trees and the flag started kind of shifting a little bit in direction. I was just like, Måns, we've got to give it another go. You know, we have to. We can't let this day be over. We cannot be defeated now. it's now now you gotta pick yourself up. Now it's round 2, here we go, it's not over. So we make a go for it again. We leave our anchorage and all of a sudden it was smooth. We got to round the headland and there it was. The wave that I dreamt of for these whole 10 years. And this whole shift of energy just flooded through me. I'd had a dry patch when it came to scoring these waves, almost to the point where maybe even believe that they're there anymore. There it was, as majestic as I dreamed. Yeah, it was very special. Feeling of seeing the wave here at home in Sweden. Yeah, it was just something out of this world. It was like a complete confirmation that decision to leave the competition scene on that level and to maybe follow a deeper surfing core was right. Whatever power it is I have, I want to express that, and I feel like surfing's my way of doing that. That's where I definitely feel I have my growth, and my learning and teachings that I can't find for myself come from just diving as deep as I can into the mysteriousness and the magic of the sea. Whatever I need to do in the rest of my life, it's just I need to follow that feeling. I need to follow that gut feeling, because that's what's going to lead me to the right place.